Strong humans. Okay, let's hope I'm in focus. Yo, let me just make sure I'm in focus right now. I've got jujitsu in like 40 minutes, but I want to move around. So I want to move around and explain some cool things to you. And you'll see I have my Berserker bars out here. The Berserker bar, by the way, there are maces and clubs that you can get from the Stronger Humans store. Currently, when I had mine made, I requested to have them powder coated. So like they have these cool colors. I have these different shades of purple. Boom, boom, with the longer one purple. And then I also have like these gold copper rings, which you can actually get, but you just can't get it colored yet. Soon, we're gonna have that capacity, but right now not. Right now we don't. But yeah, I wanna get some movement in before jujitsu. And while I do this, I also wanna, talk to you guys about some of the really cool, unique benefits of clubs and maces. Now, if you saw the video I made about flow work on my main YouTube channel, I talked about that a bit there. But the thing is I just noticed this tendency when people see these types of implements. One of the immediate things that people tend to go towards is calling it a gimmick and a circus trick. And I think also you're gonna be hearing a sound. The sound you hear are BBs inside of the bar. The cool thing about the BBs is that they actually cause a shifting weight when you swing the bar. So as you swing the bar, weight shifts down, weight shifts down, weight shifts down. And it causes a different type of stimulus on the body when you're doing these rotational movements. But one of the coolest things about clubs, maces, and levered implements, I would say the first thing is how it brings a different level of rotational torque onto whatever joints you're working. So let's just use this dumbbell as an example. Even weight on both sides, bicep curl, the weight is evenly distributed onto the joints that it's working on. Okay, cool. I love dumbbells. Dumbbells are great. When you have some type of levered implement, this is like 5, 10, and this club itself is maybe around 5 pounds or so, 15 pounds. If I were to put my hand out here, whew, actually that hurts. That hurts that wrist. Ooh, that's a lot of torque. But because the weight is farther away, if I were to do the same curl, you notice how even my body is adjusting to this. This is like 12 pounds, but because the weight is farther away, it brings more rotational torque on my wrist. If I were to curl it this way, and then if I were to curl it on the inside, right, there's now rotational torque on this side of the arm. Now you might be wondering, why would I want this rotational torque? Because it builds a different level, I believe, of strength, because it stresses your structure differently than an even amount of torque does, okay? One would probably try to argue, well, you know what? If that's easier to work with, I could then work with heavier weight with an even distribution of torque on the joint. This is true. But at the same time, when you're working with unevenly distributed torque, you could progress it in the same way, but now you're bringing more stress to different structures that haven't been getting this type of stress through a standard type of implement. This is why I've noticed that after I started working with these types of implements, and I talked about this in the bone density video, how you don't only compress the structure, but you can pull out the structure and you can bring rotational torque to your body, meaning your bones are now twisting, these types of implements, especially when you're just right here, it's literally, even though my bone, it's not like my bone is soft enough that it's gonna twist, but the force, the rotational torque of this really pulling down and my arm having to fight against this, right? As I come down and I come up, my arm and my whole body, my arm has to fight against this torque and force pushing down that way. That force is not something that's created when I'm working with a typical dumbbell. So that's one thing that's pretty cool. You're now bringing these different amounts of rotational torque to the body. The second thing that I love about this is how it helps, just like rope flow. Because when you do rope flow, I've talked about in a prior video on this channel, talked about how rope flow can bring a level of decompression to your body, especially as you learn to take the slack out of your system when you're rolling the rope. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say take the slack out of your system, I'm not going to go into that into this video because it took a while in the last video. So I'll just link to the last video at the end of this video so you can see what I'm saying. But when you learn to take the slack out of your system when you're rolling the rope, and because the rope now brings a slight, when you're swinging an object, it has a level of momentum, right? And that momentum will bring a pulling force to your structure. So even though this rope isn't super heavy, right? It's an entry-level heavy rope, right? When I swing it and I use my body and my spine to swing this rope, I can feel it pull at the spine gently. I can feel it pull at my shoulders gently, right? So it brings this gentle decompression to my structure, to my body, which again is good for bones, it's good for the body, it's good to help things loosen up. It's one of the reasons why so many people in the stronger human community feel so many levels of decompression and more looseness as they do the practice of rope flow, less back pain, etc. Well, when you learn to manipulate a club or a mace, one of the first cool things is you learn to use your body as a pendulum. So right now, you'll notice how my arm is swinging, okay? There are a few ways to pendulum, right? Right now I have my weight over my left leg and my arm is swinging. I can then bring my weight over my right leg and keep my arm swinging. I can then have a transition to really use my body to pendulum this weight. But again, it's still slightly pulling at my structure. So the cool thing is you learn to use your body as a counterweight to a weight, okay? And then over time, when you then get the hang of swinging the object, you learn how to use your body as a counterweight in a few different ways. So not only does that allow you to work this rotation that slightly happens through the spine, but you also learn how to stabilize your core in a different way than static stabilization. Now, did I ever read about static stabilization? No, I've never heard this term before, but it makes sense for what I'm about to explain to you. When you're doing something like a plank and your core is staying perfectly still and you're planking on the ground, you have a little bit of brace in the core, but the abs, the core, the trunk is not moving around, okay? You're doing this plank, so you're stable. When you're doing an L-sit, like an L-sit on gymnastics rings, or you're doing leg raises, your core is stable and static. Your core's not moving around. When you move with a club or a mace, this would be considered a mace right here. So this is like the mid-size. So I'll call this a club slash mace. But when you move with this, you're gonna notice how my core, actually, you know what, let's do this. I think it'll be easier for you guys to see if I take this off and watch my trunk. Ooh. Notice how I'm not swinging this thing and staying stiff. If I were swinging this and staying stiff, I wouldn't be able to move. But I have to get my core and I have to get my torso, my spine tall, and I have to use my body as a counterweight against this mace. So I'm now oh, that was dirty. There we go. Had some dirty reps in there. It's okay. But I'm having to stabilize my core dynamically. You heard me talk about that in the flow video if you watched it. I'll link the flow video at the end of this too. But when I mention stabilize the core dynamically, that's what I mean. Because you're not stiffening up. You can't swing an object if you're stiff here. Just like if this were, shit, I hate that I'm about to say this. If this were a whip and I had my core super tight, I'm not gonna be able to create a lot of force if I go like that and I don't move my core, I'm flexing. I have to be able to get large. Whoo, shit. I don't like doing that. But yeah, you notice how I get tall, rotate, right? The whole body moves through to help generate that force. If I were using an axe or using something to cut wood, I wouldn't keep my core super tight. I would boom, boom. I would get tall. I'm not flexing, but I'm allowing my core and my spine to help me create that force. And this is why these things aren't gimmicks. And this is why so many other cultures outside of the United States, India, Persia, Asia, Africa to an extent too, have different types of tools. And the reason why I say Africa to an extent is because unfortunately, there are a lot of exercise, there's a lot of exercise history in the continent of Africa, but it just hasn't been recorded well. But I do know there have been a lot of implements, a lot of club type implements that have been used there for aspects of training. So anyway, that's beside the point. But all over the world, these things have been used. And the unfortunate thing is when I see videos of people who are so entrenched within traditional lifting online, traditional lifting, by the way, which is still good, which I still take part in certain aspects of that, because it's really beneficial. But it's always turns into an us versus them thing. Whenever they speak about or see these types of things, they are quick to call these things gimmicks or circus tricks without realizing how beneficial these things can be. Let me also mention one more thing that should be an obvious thing once you understand how useful these things are. I talked about in the video about flow training, I talked about how the shoulders are a ball in a socket, kind of like your hips are a ball in a socket. They benefit from rotation. When you throw an object, let me just freaking use the rope for this, right? When you throw an object, you're taking the shoulder through its full range of motion, right? Boom. Taking the shoulder through its full range of motion. And many things that most people focus on within traditional lifting, like the overhead press, use the shoulder in one way, right? But clubs, maces, the rope, kettlebells, they allow you to express the full capacity of the shoulder and strengthen the rotational capacity of the shoulder. And this isn't just for people who are throwing athletes or who do throwing sports. All humans want to have full capacity of their shoulder. We want to have that full capacity. We want to have the ability to bring our arms over our head comfortably, have all of this range of motion, right? And if you'll notice, a lot of people who only stick to traditional forms of lifting, move in specific ranges of motion, they also lack certain ranges of motion. They also lack the ability to get certain things overhead in this way. So I share this with you to say that all of these things have their strength. And even though there are very smart people, unfortunately, that just look at these things and call them gimmicks, I'm not going to say they're not, they're dumb. But people tend to call things gimmicks sometimes because there are so many gimmicks out there. But a lot of times it comes because they've just haven't done the thing. It's like someone who looks at the martial art of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and is like, oh, you know, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu isn't going to work in a fight. It's a gimmick. And then they do it and they just get manhandled. And there's two choices from that point. You either say, okay, you know what, I'm going to learn this martial art, or you're like, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time with this, which is what many people do with this. There's a lot of people who are very entrenched within traditional lifting. They pick up a club and they can't swing it. It's bad. It's hard. So immediately there's a choice. I either get good at the thing that I'm not very good at, or I just kick it away and label it as a gimmick because I am not good at it. Embrace the things that you're not good at because typically there is a strength on the other side that's waiting for you. Anyway, I hope you guys, you know, start taking part in some of these gimmicks and start seeing how they'll benefit you. If you want to learn rope flow, you can join the Stronger Human community for free on school.com. I have a course bundle, 6 courses for $47 down below. But the Rope Flow Foundations course, you can just literally start that right now. All you need is a rope, which you can get from the Stronger Human store. All these pieces of equipment, by the way, you can also get at the Stronger Human store. But unfortunately for the Berserker bar, I'll show this to you guys real quick. This is the Berserker bar, like I mentioned. You won't be able to get it colored custom yet, okay? It'll be silver or black. But right here, I like the wrapped handles because it gives you something to grab onto, especially when you're doing this type of movement. It's like this nice grippy handle. Oh yeah. And you can also get this, there's an option for these chrome rings. Kind of looks like a lightsaber. But these are also at the Stronger Human store. So, I hope you guys give the gimmicks a shot. But you know, one of the cool things? When you're an early adopter of something, like many of you who have been doing rope flow have been noticing the benefits, you're still early adopters. People will look at you a certain way. And then they'll do the thing and then realize how beneficial it is and then realize how ignorant they were being. There have been people who have been using these types of implements way before I started. And I'm happy I never really looked at this stuff and I never really just shunned it away because that's not how I am with things. I try to have a fairly open mind and I try to actually give things a shot before talking shit, unlike a lot of people, unfortunately. But I hope that you keep an open mind with things. Hope that you give this stuff a shot. As I mentioned, join the Strong Human community. Oh, and I got this question. I got this question a few times. Someone asked me, "Nsima, why do you post these videos on this channel?" Well, the reason why I post these videos on this channel is because this channel allows me to just kind of talk raw about things. On my other channel, I plan those videos out rigorously. I plan all the shots out with my cameraman Owen, and I want those videos to look beautiful. So those videos take me months to make, but when I make those videos, my goal is for that video to be the video that people can go to for that specific piece of information. So I do a lot of research, I do a lot of preparation. It takes me months to make each video that goes on that channel. But here, I can just give it to you off the cuff. And on this channel, you'll be getting a lot of these ideas before they come to the main channel. Because when they come to the main channel, these ideas will be very polished. And I'll be able to it's just much more polished. But here I can be raw, I can just talk and I can joke around. All right, so that's why these videos are going on this channel. I'll see y'all in the Stronger Human community. Let's keep it moving.